Hey Condors, thanks for coming by and welcome to our 5 and 10K virtual running plan welcome webinar. So super pumped you guys have signed up for our 2 fall running programs here. And we're going to talk about a bunch of different topics today around running and kind of how to follow the plan. And hopefully there will be lots of great info for you here today. So to give you a little overview of some of the things we'll be talking about today, I'll give you a little introduction to myself and my background, as well as the athletics and recreation department that I'm a part of and that puts out the recreation center and a number of programs. We'll talk about some of the benefits of running, running form and mechanics. We'll talk about some really key pillars of performance to help you really improve as a runner and optimize your performance. We'll talk a little bit about the 2 plans and how to follow them. And then we'll finish off with some of the kind of key running topics you'll kind of come across throughout your time getting into running here. So things around gear, run tracking, how to find great routes, some cool apps that are out there. So hopefully you'll enjoy what we got in store for you here today. So to give you a little snapshot of myself, I definitely consider myself a bit of a running nerd. I could definitely talk hours on end and spend many of my hours outside of work talking about things around running and endurance. So this is a topic dear to my heart. So currently I'm the supervisor of the Recreation Center at Conestoga College. And last year, actually, before I started full-time here, I was the assistant cross-country coach. In terms of my educational background, I have a kinesiology and health sciences degree from York University. And probably about 6 years ago, I was getting a lot of questions and a lot of people asking me to really help them improve their running or asking for advice. So I actually started coaching a number of endurance athletes across triathlons, cycling, and running, and have really gone full bore into it. And I'm constantly reading up on the newest and latest articles about running, and really want to bring the people that I'm helping out kind of the newest evidence-based info out there. In terms of some of my athletic accomplishments in terms of running and triathlon, I've competed at 2 multi-sport world championships. So one was in Penticton, BC, and just last September I competed in Nice, France. And probably running-wise, I've competed in 2 Boston marathons in 2015 and 16. And those were 2 of my favorite race experiences for sure. So that's a little bit about myself. Looking at athletics and recreation as a department as a whole. So just as I'm going to this slide, some of the bold ones on there are ones we are still currently running kind of during the pandemic here. So the entire sheet kind of talks about what a typical athletics and recreation year would look like. So currently we are still running virtual fitness classes, things like yoga and boot camp. But usually we would run them in person when the recreation center's open, but currently it's still closed for the fall semester. Programs, we're offering a couple different programs. So obviously you're signed up for the run program this year, but I definitely encourage you guys to get involved with the 2 other programs we have this year, as they very much support the running program. There's a Stronger and Wiser program, as well as transitioning to a healthy lifestyle. So we'll talk about kind of how both of these parts really play into this optimization and improving your performance as a runner as well. And those 2 programs are run by our manager of recreation and performance, Kristen. She's awesome and has a awesome wealth of knowledge in those 2 areas. So the recreation center, if you've never been there, we got gymnasiums, the multi-purpose rooms where we run fitness classes, as well as the fitness center. Like I mentioned, that is closed for the fall, but typically we have that running. And usually we would have intramurals, so a bunch of different sports that we would run internally for Conestoga College students. We also have academic courses that run in there. So actually currently our gyms are being used for the nursing programs. We have varsity sports, so a number of sports like basketball, volleyball, badminton, that would typically run in a usual year. But this year we're actually pumped to announce we're going to be running an esports team that's going to compete against other colleges this fall. And then we also have the health and wellness support and resources within the building, so things like the athletic therapy clinic in there. So that's just a snapshot of athletics and recreation. You can always hop on our website, ConestogaCondors.ca, and get lots of more info on what we're running during that time. When we look at running, there's tons of benefits to being a runner. Um, it's awesome in terms of your body composition that really helps build strong muscles and bones that will help you for years to come. Obviously, great for your cardiovascular system. Burns tons of calories. It's one of the best calorie burning sports and activities you can do out there. Obviously, it's a simple one to do. Like very little barriers to entry. All you need is really a pair of running shoes, and you can pretty much run anywhere in the world. So I would say running's one thing I definitely do on almost every vacation I go on. Is that all I need to do is bring a pair of shoes. Where if you're a cyclist, you gotta bring a bike or source a bike, and there's tons of gear and stuff you need for that. So the simplicity of running is really great. In terms of many of you are just back to school or getting really busy with this work semester or just life in general, I find running can be such a great stress reliever and just a chance for you to go and forget about everything else you got in your life and just go out and have your own time alone, or a social aspect in terms of going out and running with friends. I've forged such an awesome community with people that are fellow runners and have become friends for life. So definitely in terms of stress relief and community building, I think you'll find running is awesome in that respect. In terms of that community building, we have set up a running community Facebook group that I'll be definitely very active on, where you guys can shoot questions at myself or just connect with fellow runners on there. And we'll probably have weekly topics that we'll throw on there that we can kind of discuss, or you can share your experiences with. So we want to give you really chance to meet up with some people in the Conestoga community on that Facebook page, and hopefully forge some friendships for you going forward. Personally, I'm a very competitive person, so running is one of the easiest sports to be able to compete at. There's tons of local and international races. Run Waterloo has an awesome series that they're typically running and are doing virtual races this year. So as somebody who grew up in a sporting background of competitive hockey and soccer, I found running is an awesome alternative to this, to kind of be able to compete on my own kind of time or whatever works within my schedule. I don't need anybody else dictating the schedule for it, which is awesome. Awesome. So moving on to run form and mechanics. So running is obviously a very taxing sport. So I really want you guys to look at a lot of the elements I give you here, because there's nothing worse than getting a running injury. So if you take into account a number of the things I'm going to talk about in terms of the training principles, your form, your recovery, your nutrition, I think you're going to find that you're going to be able to be consistent over time and stay as far away from these injuries as possible. So in terms of running, like running every stride, if you think about it, it's a single leg sport. You're landing on each leg, like Mike, our cross-country guy in our picture there. And every time you're hitting the ground, it's 5 to 8 times your body weight. So you think how taxing that is. Do your body weight and times it by 5, and that's how much load you're putting under your leg every single stride. So a lot of injuries that happen over time are improper mechanics that when you repeat them a bunch over time, they start to lead to injuries. So some of the common ones you'll see that lead to improper mechanics are improper hip extension, so not being able to swing your leg back, limited ankle dorsiflexion, so if you think of your ankle like this, not being able to take the impact up into it. So those are two, especially in the hips, knees, and ankles, you'll find those all really work very close together. And if you're not tracking properly on those, or you don't have good flexibility in there, and you're putting 5 to 8 times your body weight, then you're going to start to get into spots where you could run the risk of injury. So we'll talk about a couple stretches and things you can do along those lines. In terms of recovery from some of this soreness you get, heat and cold applications are definitely really good for that. In terms of run form, some things I really want you to think about when you're running is run tall. So don't be very hunched over or leaning super far back. You want to run pretty tall, maybe a very slight lean forward just to help gravity move you forward. Running wide. So if you think about your legs, you don't want your legs to be crossing over every single stride that you're doing. You kind of want to, you don't need to run super wide, but if you think about kind of your knees being almost shoulder width apart, That's going to help your kind of knees track straight and you kind of stay on a strong line. Running quiet. So if you think about your feet, you don't want to hear your feet constantly hammering the ground, because if you're constantly hammering the ground, chances are you're in the upper end of that 5 to 8 times your body weight. So if it's suddenly 8 to 10 times your body weight you're doing every stride, then yeah, that's going to lead to probably injuries as you go along. So running quiet, quick turnover, and just being quick off the ground. One thing we find a lot in newer runners is the second they're doing any sort of intensity, so fast running, or the second they're starting to push themselves, they really love to tense up their upper body. So what we like to work on with the runners is really think about holding eggs in your hands. So if you don't tense up your hands, then chances are you're not going to tense up your shoulders or your arms, and really just having a lot of tense, like being tense in that upper body is a lot of wasted energy. Most of our energy we want to be using is through our legs. So if you're constantly clenched in that upper body, you're giving away energy that could be better used over the course of the run for your lower body. In terms of cadence, this is one people tend to get a little overwhelmed with sometimes, but typically an optimal cadence would be like 180 steps per minute. So you can kind of count this while you're running. If you look at your watch and you have and you count it over a minute, you would be 90 per leg essentially. But this is one thing that you want to keep your kind of natural cadence. I don't want people to really force this fast cadence and be like, okay, I need to run super fast, and suddenly they're running with really weird form. This is something you can kind of slowly work into your running. And this is why you'll see in the plan, I have a lot of interval training. And what happens is when you're running fast, chances are you're going to be up in this 180 steps per minute. And the good thing when you're running fast is your body really commands good form and needs that good form to be able to move you quickly. So there will be, essentially it's built into the plan, almost this cadence work. So I don't want people to go super crazy on their first run when they're running their easy warm up to really try and force this really fast cadence, but it's just something to be cognizant of not a really slow cadence, because that's where you're not going to run very quiet. You'll find you're really hammering the ground a lot. So just something to keep in mind, and something that we'll really work on throughout the plan with the speed training that you're doing. So this is something I go through with all the athletes that I coach. Is people love to get engulfed with the training aspect of running. But I like to tell people, if they think of these pillars of performance as equal parts in their plan, chances are they're going to stay injury-free and probably end up with a better performance when they finish off and run a race or finish off a training block. So if you can think about all of these 4 areas as equally important to your performance, I think you'll find that it's a lot more enjoyable process. So obviously the one people get engulfed with a lot is this endurance training. So a couple things I like to harp on with this is stick to the training plan. What this plan does that is going to be sent out to you is it's progressive overload. So it's really only building by like 10% in terms of mileage and intensity each week. And that's a kind of an area where you can safely load week to week. I find people will start out and they'll run whatever 7K their first week, and then the next week suddenly they're running 30K, and then they're doing 50K, and suddenly before they know it they're injured, and they're like, oh, what happened? Like, I felt so good. So it's really trusting the process and progressively overloading over many weeks that is going to allow you to really improve as a runner. Another thing I find people, especially newer runners, run into when they're starting out running is they think that they should be improving every single run they go out. So they'll go out the door, hammer a 5K and say it was 32 minutes. They're like, okay, next time I go out, it's going to be 31 minutes. And then the one after, it's going to be 30. So I really want to get people away from that. Of what you should really be doing is putting in a training block such as this 8-week program, and really ebbing and flowing the intervals. So we'll go over a little bit of how you're going to do that in the program. And then at the end of this 8-week block is going for that personal best. And while you don't get that instant achievement every single run, I can assure you, if you stick to this 8-week program, You're going to come out on the other end probably a lot faster with better improvement than you would have if you were just trying to personal best every single run. And chances are you're going to enjoy it a lot more, and you're also going to reduce your risk of injury. So really, this is where I say stick to the plan, trust the process, and you will come out better on the other side. Once again, I also like to tell people that your current fitness is not made up of one workout you do. You will find you will have good days and you will have bad days, but essentially it's the consistency that drives performance improvements. So not every day is going to be incredible out there, but if you stick to the plan and you do these 3 runs a week and really stick to the paces and really trust in the process, I think you'll come out on the other end a lot better runner. Another thing I like to work on with my athletes is varying your paces. So you'll find with a lot of what I say is a lot of the running is really going to be like easy aerobic running, but then I want you to be able to hit those intervals really hard. What happens is a lot of people will go out and run at a pace that they find to them is it feels taxing on their body, but they're not really working that hard. But they figure if they're running this pace that feels like decently hard over a run, that that's gonna allow them to improve, and you feel good at the end, like you worked pretty hard over it. But this is what I like to call the gray zone. So essentially, what this zone means is that you're running at an intensity that is taxing and feels hard, but it actually doesn't offer a lot of benefits. So what I like to do is really keep people either in this lower zone, which is very easy running, aerobic. It really helps build your aerobic engine over time and is not that taxing on your body. And then that other 20 to 30% of your running in the intensity section there is your hard running. And that's where you're actually testing yourself and running shorter intervals that you'll find will grow over the weeks. And when you spend lots of times at those harder intervals, much above that gray zone, that's what starts to pull your fitness level up. That gray zone doesn't really bring you up at all. So really hitting those intervals hard and working on those higher speeds is what's going to allow you to pull that fitness level up. So that's something I really want you to think of is not every part of your run out there should be working super hard. You'll have the easy parts, but I really want you to focus on hitting those intervals hard. Another thing you can do to really help improve your training is cross training. So things around cycling, swimming, rowing. You just need to be cognizant that if you have intense runs and say you're putting cycling or swimming the days in between, is that you're not going super hard on those days because they will affect your future runs there. And when your focus is running, you got to keep your eyes on the prize and really make sure you're hitting those runs. But these are great ways I find a nice spin on the bike or a nice swim is a great way to flush out the legs and really help with your running recovery, because running is especially a high impact sport and a lot of those are pretty low impact. Just a quote at the bottom there is that I give a lot of my athletes is people always have these crazy high expectations of themselves as they roll into races, but I really want you to be realistic about where you're at. And in racing and training, you don't just rise to the level of those expectations and go, well, I think I should be running a 20-minute 5K, so that's where I should be. It's like, no, you actually fall to the level of your training. So really, you got to put those training blocks in and be consistent over time, and that's what's going to allow you to kind of be your best runner in the end. So second section of the pillars of performance is nutrition. This is obviously, there's tons of diet fads and stuff out there, but I like to really tell my athletes to keep it simple and just be smart about it. Like try and limit your sugar intake where possible. Eat loads of fruits and vegetables. They're really actually great sources of carbohydrates that are going to help your runs. So eating lots of fruits and vegetables are low in calories, and suddenly you're upping these calories with the running. You can eat tons of these fruits and vegetables, and I think you'll find your body composition is actually still going to respond really well to this. And kind of to follow that up, just limiting those processed foods. Water and hydration is going to be super important. The thing with running is you're going to burn a lot of calories as well as water during this, and you really need to first replenish that water, and your body's going to be revved up with its metabolism, and you're going to be running a warmer temperature throughout that day. So the more you're running, you're going to find that your your water needs are super important. So just always, I constantly always have water around me. So really working on it, making sure you're getting minimum those 8+ cups of water per day. But if you're running in hot conditions or just even days that you're running in general, you're probably going to need to take on some more water. So just making sure you're well hydrated when you start your run. If you're going out for a run that's, call it an hour or more, then maybe take some water with you, and just post exercise, really getting that, really having lots of hydration after is going to help your recovery as well. Some things to think about is, especially intense exercises, carbs are going to help you fuel the work. You don't make carbs an enemy. You don't need to go and eat this massive pasta bowl the day before a run to fuel the work like that. But I like to say, if you're doing a morning run, I like to maybe eat a bagel an hour and a half, 2 hours before, because especially when you're working in those high interval areas, carbs are what is fueling that work. So you will want some carbs on board. So I'm definitely a proponent of using carbs to fuel the work. And then protein is really going to help you excel that recovery. So getting good sources of protein in after is going to help you kind of recover from that run workout. Also making sure just in your day-to-day you're getting some good fats in. So things like oils, avocados are great sources, nuts, fats definitely help support the system in the recovery as well. So coming up next, recovery, I think, is the single biggest thing that people tend to neglect when they're looking at a running program, but it's where literally all your adaptations and improvements come from the running. They don't come from when you're actually doing the work. It's this recovery that really helps excel that process and allow you to come back day in, day out and work super hard and actually be able to absorb those improvements. So like I was mentioning on the last slide with the nutrition, really aiming to get protein in within the first like 30 minutes of exercise is super important to help the muscles start to recover and get those adaptations. Stress, it's obviously a big part of our lives and not something you can always control, but I can assure you, like, your physical and mental stress in your non-exercise time plays a huge role in, first, how you're able to perform on the run, as well as the recovery from your runs. So just wherever you can is limiting that physical stress. So if you have a super taxing job where you're on your feet 8 hours a day and working super hard at work, and then you're going out for a run at night, you just got to be cognizant that chances are you're probably not going to get the most out of your run. So just really planning your weekly runs around where you think you're going to have the least amount of stress kind of leading up to it, as well as maybe where you can check out and relax after the run as well, because that's going to go a long way in helping you recover from these runs. Sleep is super important. This is where the majority of the adaptations happen from your running here, is during those hours of sleep. So I find, especially when I'm in a heavy training block, I need a lot of times that 8 to 9 hours of sleep, or I just can't perform day in, day out when I have my run workouts. So I like to say trying to get a minimum of 7 up to 9 is definitely super important. One thing to talk about, especially that helps get your body warmed up and cool down to start the recovery process, is at the start of your runs is not bolting out the door and starting to go hard on the run right away. You really need to warm your body up for the work to come. So really warming up at the start of your run, and especially at the end of your run, is finishing it with an easy walk or easy jog at the end, because all it does is start to bring that body back down to its regular levels, which really helps to start the recovery process. Where if you were to just go out for a run, go hard, and then just walk in the door and then get on with your daily life, your body's still kind of in a state of shock and hasn't had a chance to come down. And then when you go into the rest of your life that you have some physical or mental stress, it's definitely going to make your recovery process a lot tougher. So just really warming up and cooling down, I think, are such important parts. It only takes like 5 to 8 to 10 minutes at the start and end of a run to warm your body up and cool it down. But I can assure you it will go a long way to helping you in the warm up, improving your run, as you do it, and the cool down to help the recovery process. Taking rest days seriously, these are where the adaptations occur. So really taking those rest days seriously, and once again, trying to limit that physical and mental stress and really amping up that sleep. It's going to go, I can assure you, a long way to making sure you feel good when your next run comes around. And then strength and mobility. This is kind of your foundation for making sure that you stay injury free, and it also helps performance a bunch. So especially it's tough to integrate within as you're growing here in an 8-week block, but essentially as I'm leading up to these training blocks, strength is such a foundation of helping me get set up for a running training block and making sure that I'm not going to end up injured for it. Because some of the common injuries you'll get are around knees, shins, plantar, so foot issues and hip issues. So this strength training is really going to help keep your body resilient as well as balanced, because you'll find over an 8-week block like this, your body can tend to break down over it. So even something like 2 times a week of some exercises like planks that are really going to help your core and help really link that upper and lower body are going to be important. Things like squats, even something like air squats are great for really working the lower legs and the lower and upper legs and making sure that you're really going to be strong for that running. Lunges are a great option, and push-ups are a nice full body workout that are going to really help support your running. So like I was mentioning, we do have a Stronger and Wiser program where Kristen's going to talk about a progressive kind of strength program in there, and offers lots of great tips in terms of strength form things. So these will be really important to making sure that you're doing these strength exercises right, because obviously if you're not doing those right, they can lead to injury as well. So you will find you'll get super tight through running. So if you don't address those mobility issues, you will find you won't be able to start to get through full range of motion, especially in running. So some things to think about is, especially it takes 5-10 minutes post-run, but I find it helps my recovery so much and just helps loosen up my muscles. So things I target post-run would be like calf stretches, quad stretches, the hamstrings, and the glutes, and even the if you're working on those calves, really working on ankle flexibility as well. I think you'll find if you really focus on those areas, that it will really help your body be able to recover for your next workout. So those were kind of our key pillars of performance. So if you can really think about those 4 and stay on those, I think you're going to find you're going to stay far away from injury and really help improve your performance. So really try and keep those in mind. And if you have any questions on those ever, or if you're getting a lot of smoke and mirrors from people on different diet fads or strength things or things they should be doing in their running, like I said, I like to keep my facts evidence-based, and I'm constantly working with some of the top coaches and specialists in the area to really get information that is valid and evidence-based. So feel free to always throw a message in the Facebook chat there. So our 2 types of plans here. So this webinar is for both the Learn to Run program and for the little more seasoned runners, so those looking to set a PB. So both the programs are 8 weeks, and they're both targeting kind of the 5 and 10K distance, but you can definitely use all of these principles for a wide variety of different race distances, everything from a 3K race, a mile race, all the way up to a marathon or an ultra. A lot of these concepts definitely hold strong no matter what distance you're running. So in the Learn to Run plan, those who currently aren't running or maybe running less than, call it 10 to 15K a week, this program is going to be good for them. And then the personal best plan is for those who are kind of currently running and are just looking for a little bit more structure and are starting to set some goals and really want to set a personal best or kind of improve their time over the 5 or 10K distance. So both of them are typically 3 runs a week. And I found you don't need too much more than that to really get some good adaptations from the running. So this would be kind of a snapshot of what you'll see on the actual running program. So like I was talking about, is a lot of your running within this is going to be easy because you're going to get a lot of aerobic benefits. There's, I can tell you there's people who have run some of their best races ever without ever running hard during their training, as they just had slow running, and they built their volume over time. And it's amazing that your body, as you build that fitness level, that it can still respond and run fast. So this would be kind of a sample of the Learn to Run program, kind of weeks 1 to 3. So if we look at that kind of run one in week 1, you would probably do something like a 5 to 10 minutes of super easy jogging, and then you do this 6 by 30 seconds of fast running, where it's like a 9 out of 10 on the run, where you're working hard, and then you do a 1-minute walk in between. And so over this, you'll spend 3 minutes total of really hard running throughout the run, and you'll find that that will really help you work on your form as well as get the heart beating, and then you'd finish it off with a couple minutes cool down in there to get to, call it 20 or 25 minutes total. What you'll want to do here is maybe if you're finding 20 minutes is too much or too little, you'll need to make little tweaks or adaptations to kind of work with your fitness level, like it is just a general plan. So not doing anything too extreme, taking either the intervals or the total run time either way, but you can do little adaptations to it. But for the most part, try and stick to the plan as much as possible. So especially those run number 1 and 2 during the week, you'll find those are kind of the days with intensity. So you'll find usually the first run of the day will be kind of shorter, harder reps. And then you'll find the run number 2 day are more like a tempo type of rep, where you're running more 7 or 8 out of 10 effort, where that run number 1 in the week might be more of a 9 out of 10 or even close to a 10 out of 10 in terms of effort. So we really want to get you ready to be able to run short and hard, as well as some of those longer tempo efforts. And then typically the run 3 is where you're going to start to, you'll find you'll be building kind of that mileage week over week. That's really going to help your body and mind wrap its mind around completing that 5 or 10K. So that one's going to progressively build, but the speed sessions during the week are really going to help a lot with your run form and improving your cardiovascular fitness. So if you ever have questions on the actual plans, you can always shoot me an email or just ask in the Facebook chat. I'm always happy to help decode. It can be a little bit confusing sometimes. So yeah, anytime you see the brackets there, those are kind of run intervals. Like I was mentioning, I really want you to make sure that you warm and cool down for at least 5 to 10 minutes at the start and end of each run. That will go a long way to prepping you for the work as well as recovering. This easy recovery pace, you should essentially be able to have a conversation with somebody beside you during these easy or recovery paces between intervals. Some of you may need to even be walking for those easy or recovery paces during the early section of the program, and then you'll find as your fitness builds, maybe you can jog at a super easy pace. But I think you'd be amazed at, like myself, who's somebody who can run about 17 minutes for a 5K, is I'm running closer to 2 minutes slower per kilometer pace on those easier recovery paces, because I know as if I go easy on those, the important part is the work intervals that I'm doing. So there's no such thing as going too easy in that easy or recovery pace. And you'll find sometimes that will change day to day just based on how you're feeling. So intervals and speed, this is where you're really going to get the benefits and the adaptation and the run form improvements. So if you have an idea, it's not a big deal. If you don't, but if you have an idea of the pace that you could currently do for, call it a 3, a 5K, or a 10K kind of all-out effort, that will definitely help you kind of guide some of the intervals in there. In terms of some of the really hard stuff would be at a 3 or 5K race pace, and some of the longer tempo would be sort of like a 10K race pace. But like I said, kind of if you use that run number 1 with a lot of the intensity in it, if you're thinking about going close to a 9 out of 10 effort, that would be a good guideline. And then those more tempo efforts, so things that are maybe 3 to 8 to 10 minutes in duration, are more of a 7 to 8 out of 10 effort. But we definitely want all the reps to be repeatable, so you don't want to go out 10 out of 10 on your first repetition and then just watch your pace fall off every single one after. I personally like to see, if anything, you go a little conservative on the first one and build it up and maybe really crush that last interval if it came down to it, instead of fading as you went through each interval. So that's kind of an overview of the plan there. There is some notes at the top of the actual plans that you can follow too. So those should help guide you. Once again, never hesitate to ask me a question. I'm always happy to help. And like I said, I love talking about running, so anytime. So a couple other topics that you'll probably come across in terms of running as you're going along. So shoes, a good pair of running shoes is super important to making running enjoyable as well. You want something that isn't going to be rubbing or giving you blisters. So I definitely recommend going to a local running shop, and they can check out your gait and give you the correct size shoes, because you'll find um, shoes can really vary in size based on the brand, and each brand is going to be different. So just hopping online and being like, oh, those shoes look cool, I'm going to order them in my size. They may not fit you very well. You may have a wider or a thinner foot. So really go see the experts on this one. A place I use is Runner's Choice in Waterloo. Those guys are awesome, and they'll bring out the sizing spot for you and really suit you to the brand and the type of runner that you are. But some other great options where you can get some assistance as well are Running Room and Sport Check. They have experts in there that can help you find running shoes that both fit you and suit kind of your running goals. And then in terms of attire, you definitely want to find things that are going to be wicking material. So things like your shorts and shirt and socks. If you're using things like cotton shirts and shorts and socks, you will end up with some chafing, and I can tell you it is not pleasant. I've been there before, and it definitely hurts a lot. So once again, a lot of these local stores, like I was talking about, can really help you find the apparel that you need to be able to be successful in this. Some other things to keep in mind as when you're running that are great is definitely sunscreen is going to be important. When you're spending a lot of time out there, you don't want to be getting a sunburn every time. A hat, so more of a like performance type of lighter running hat that isn't going to like overheat your head is definitely important. If you're looking for something to be able to track your runs, a regular watch, a GPS watch, or your phone. I'll talk about some of the apps you can use on your phone to track your running, and as well as using music. I personally am somebody who actually doesn't like to run outside with music, but for treadmill runs, I definitely can't do without music. I just find for outdoor runs, I'm a little more in sync with my breathing as well as kind of my form and cadence when I'm not using music. But there's definitely tons of performance benefits, and you may find that you need music to really help keep you motivated, especially in some of those run intervals. So to each their own in terms of preference on that stuff. So some things that I myself use and lots of people I coach and just the running community in general. A great spot to kind of track all of your runs is I use Strava. So what you could do is like I personally have a Garmin GPS watch that when I finish my run, it uploads to my phone and goes on Strava there, and I can essentially see all the runs I've done. You can see the route and as well as kind of the intervals in there. So it's a nice spot to be able to kind of take a look at your run after. Heart rate monitor is kind of another nice to have thing, but once again, like you can keep it super simple and use things like Run GPS that can map routes for you, and then just use like a regular watch. Like you don't need to go super crazy with buying all the latest gear and GPS watches and stuff. You can keep the running simple, but just wanted to give you kind of a snapshot of some of the things I like to use, which is typically a GPS watch and heart rate monitor, and I track and upload all my runs to Strava. And it's also a great community spot where people can see your runs. And you can also see there's tons of professional runners on there or just local runners around. It can be super motivating to kind of see what other people are doing out there. We have in KW some awesome local running routes. So some of my favorites that I like to run in the area is the Grand River Trail, which goes right near Conestoga. There is some nice crushed gravel trail there that's can be super nice on the knees instead of just running pavement all the time. And there's loads of trails through there that go all the way from Cambridge all the way up to Waterloo. So definitely recommend checking that out. I'm somebody who likes to go run different places all the time. So Grand River Trail's awesome. A couple uptown Waterloo spots that go through Kitchener as well. Iron Horse Trail and the Spurline Trail. And then close to Conestoga as well as the Homer Watson Park that has some great trails through there. So definitely recommend mixing up your routes. The great thing about running is it's an awesome chance to explore. So I definitely highly recommend checking out some awesome areas on your runs when you get a chance here. Makes it super fun, and especially if you're doing a sunrise run or a sunset run, it can be tons of fun to go explore those places. So like I was mentioning, we do have the Facebook group where you can connect with kind of fellow Conestoga runners, as well as the coach, myself, and Kristen will be on there to support in kind of a strength and lifestyle perspective. But essentially you can see the picture down there. So if you search up Conestoga College Running Community on there, it asks you a couple questions as you go in, just kind of your run experience and goals, just so we can get an idea to help guide the weekly discussion topics. So definitely hop on there. Even if you don't even want to be active on there, I think we're going to have some great info to support a lot of the stuff on here within that Conestoga College running community. And it's something we really want to forge going forward, that it can be a spot where anybody, new students or even alumni, can be in there along with the current students as well as staff and faculty to just really support each other, and hopefully eventually when we can get together for some more group runs, is having some regular stuff that runs from campus. So I think it's really going to be a great spot going forward for everybody to connect. So that is all the information I have here. I'm sure it was a lot to digest here. Obviously this video is here on YouTube, so feel free to hop on at any time you need, because you can scroll through and see the different PowerPoints. Once again, we are here to help you along the way and navigate running that can be a super confusing topic in sport, and with a lot of different viewpoints and stuff out there. But like I said, I'm not the be-all end-all expert for everything, but I like to think that if I don't have an answer for something, I have a number of industry leaders that I can always tap into to really get an answer on things. So most of all, have fun with this plan. I think if you commit to it and stick it through for the full 8 weeks, you're really going to find the running enjoyable, and hopefully build a healthy habit that you'll want to be able to run and improve for many years to come. So best of luck to everybody. And I look forward to seeing you out there on the Conestoga Facebook page. And always don't hesitate to shoot me an email if you got any questions. Take care.